So good morning, everybody, and welcome to Maryland Business Roundtable for Education. I'm Laurie Bell. I'm the program coordinator for Dorchester County, and this is Healthcare as a Puzzle. Which piece are you? And we are going to have some different things we're going to be talking about today. We are going to talk about biomed technology, and that's another piece of our puzzle in the hospital. We're going to talk about professional nursing practices. And then we have a special treat. We're going to hear from a captain in the U.S. Air Force, and he's from the Judge Advocate General's Corps. And we're going to learn exactly what that is. He's a special guest today. He's the son of one of our guests from yesterday. And what's special about him is he's actually a graduate from Colonel Richardson High School. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say and how he got to where he is in his journey. So before we begin, let's talk about who we are and where we're from today. Go ahead and unmute your mics and tell us your names, where you're from, and what you're interested in doing when you graduate high school, if you would, please. And can we start? I'm going to go with the order that you're in on my computer. So can we start with you, Shay?
Okay. Hi, my name is Taisha Johnson. I'm from Kent County, Maryland, and I like to be an RN or anesthesiologist.
Thank you for doing that for us. Good morning and welcome. Courtney.
There we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Courtney. I live in Dorchester County, and that's a different part of Maryland. Also, when I grow up, I want to become a forensic scientist.
Thank you for sharing, Courtney, and thank you for joining us. Jordan. I see that she wrote in the chat that she is from Allegheny County and she's interested in nursing. Can you wave? We can see you. Thank you. And who do we have here? Jenna.
Hi, I'm Jenna. I'm from sorry. I'm from Wacomico County, and I plan on going to a 4-year college plus some for reconstructive surgery or orthodontics.
Reconstructive surgery and orthodontics. Thank you very much for joining us today. Shelby.
Hi, I'm Shelby. I'm from Caroline County, and after high school, I plan on being either a dermatologist or an orthopedic surgeon.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Is it Maheen? From Howard County and interested in neurosurgery. Oh, I wish you would, I don't know, were you with us Monday? I can't remember right now. We had a neurosurgeon that joined us. Were you with us on Monday? I'll have to make sure when I get the link to the video that we share that with you so that you can see the neurosurgeon piece that we had on Monday. And Horachelle. Her name is Horachelle. She's from Caroline County and she would like to become a doctor. Well, it seems like you're all in the right place. Welcome, Horachelle. Thank you for joining us today. Those of you that have been here already, what is something that you've liked so far? Go right ahead. You can unmute your mics and we can just have a discussion.
Because I'm only here for the first half because I work the second half. Right. But so far, I enjoy how they all allow us to ask questions. And the first day when she had I can't remember her name, but the nurse, she had her PowerPoints and stuff like that. I found that really engaging with the polls and all that. That was very fun. I like that.
So you really like the polls? I really like that too. That's something that I was trying to figure out, I'm going to contact her and learn how to do that so that I can use it and my team can use it as well.
I did talk to Claudia and she said she is more than happy to work with you on that.
Somebody else? Jordan says everything. Somebody else, something that you can take away, something that you've enjoyed about this so far? We have time to discuss while we're waiting for Mr. Terry to get here.
The fact that they're able to explain to you in detail about what they do and are patient and willing to answer questions.
And they're patient and willing to answer the questions.
Hmm.
That's one thing I've enjoyed, that they're willing to answer the questions in depth, and it became more of a discussion. Welcome, Haley. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
We're good, thank you. Can you tell everybody where you're from and what you might want to do when you grow up? Everybody else has introduced themselves.
I'm from Allegheny County, and I'm really not sure what I want to do. I'm considering a PA, and I don't really know what else.
So are you pretty sure you want to do something in the medical field?
Yeah.
What is something, I just asked everybody a question, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I've opened it up for everybody. The question is, what is something you've liked about this program so far?
I like that it's the jobs that we're seeing are jobs that you wouldn't normally think of in a hospital. And so, like, you have a much bigger variety of options.
Very good. That is another thing that I've liked. I spoke about this yesterday when I was talking to my students at my school, and I said, when you think of a hospital and you think of healthcare, what jobs do you think of? And most of them come back and say, doctor, nurse. Some of them will come back and say, maybe like a physician's assistant. Some will come and say, people that work in an operating room. But a lot of people didn't think about the technology piece of it. A lot of people don't think about some of the things we're going to talk about today. So when I say to you, biomedical technology, what do you think of? Before Mr. Austin gets here, what do you think of when we say biomedical technology?
I think more of like the machines and medicines that they make and like everything that they make to use for the medical field.
Explain a little bit more if you would. Anybody, this is open for everybody. This is discussion for everybody.
Well, if you I broke it up. So like bio is like life, medical. So like maybe what the technology that keeps the patients alive, like maybe like the UV pipes, or I think I said that wrong, but like maybe the technology that keeps them running, the ones that are necessary for life, maybe. I don't know.
I hear what you're saying. I guess I'm trying to see if you can be more specific.
I think of like radiologists. I think I said that right. Like people that take care of x-rays and all the imaging.
Okay, I saw somebody else put up here x-ray. So that was, that is a specific thing. X-ray would be a technology thing. What is another one? More stuff they keep records on. We talked about that yesterday with the information technology where they keep the records. What could be another one? There's one that's been talked about a lot lately. Janine's smiling. Are you thinking the way that I am, Janine?
I think so.
Is it like where they work with like medication and like microscopes, and like try to find medication like with the coronavirus?
There's been a lot of technology used in trying to work with find cures for the coronavirus. However, what do we hear a lot of people having be put on with the coronavirus? Somebody put ventilators.
Yep.
And that is a technology that's helping to keep somebody alive. And somebody said earlier, keeping some, machines that keep people alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was trying to get somebody to narrow it down and say. those machines that help people breathe. That's a biomedical technology because it's helping somebody breathe, but the technology is making it work.
Yeah, and just like Jenna had said too, the IV pumps are huge because a lot of the COVID patients are winding up in the ICU, and they not only have one pump, they wind up with 3, 4, 5 pumps all together. And if they don't work, it makes for a bad day. So they were all good answers.
They were all great answers. And somebody said the microscopes that are being used. So I wonder where Mr. Austin is today.
If you guys see me looking away, it's just because I'm multitasking. I was trying to email him.
I did too.
Yeah, so I just sent him an email. I have not heard back. So I'm going to mute myself for a second, and I'm going to see if I can hunt him down real quick.
So what else do you want to talk about? When you're relying on volunteers, sometimes things happen. Where do you want to go? I know a lot of you want to go into healthcare. Have you thought about where you want to go to school? Courtney goes to Cambridge South. Oh, I think we're there. Good morning. Oh, we don't have audio yet. Good morning, Mr. Alston.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you much. I had to rush down here. I got a few calls before I could get down here, but I think I'm on time. Just on time, too.
You had me a little worried, but you made it.
I apologize. Whenever we come into, and I assume you can see me, I can't see me on the screen here, so I don't know what the heck you're seeing.
We cannot see you right now.
If you
cannot
go
see
to where
me.
it says video, where it says stop video, just click on it. It should be able to show your video.
Okay.
But this is the
There we
way the
go.
morning
There
has
we go.
been here at the hospital. I'm just saying.
Well, my morning has been like that. That's here at the hospital.
Yeah.
But anyway, so here I am. So am I up or no?
Yes,
Yep.
you.
We can see you.
Okay, so am I up? Should I start running my mouth now?
Sure.
Okay.
Everybody, this is Mr. Terry Austin. He's going to talk about biomedical. He's a biomedical technician for University of Maryland Shore Regional Health, and I'm going to turn it over to him since we have him here now.
Good morning, nice people. I hope you can hear me clearly. If you can't, just let me know. We good? Okay, so what I thought to do is to actually come into an OR where we actually get to work on equipment. So let me back up, sidestep for just a second, give you some background of who the heck I am or what I do. While you might see me dressed like a surgeon, I am a surgeon who works only on machines, not on patients. I'm in the OR right now because this is all for you all. However, we work on all the machinery and the lights from the lights, not the ceilings, but all these medical lights, the surgical lights, on down to all the surgical equipment, anesthesia machines, all the little devices that you connect to a patient to maintain their life. So we do that as biomedics. And I am an avid believer in preparing the next generation to come in and do what I do, except do it better than what I do. And the technology, of course, is moving ahead at just phenomenal speed, just like computers. Everything's becoming computerized and digitized. And so if you want to get into this field, consider IT as a foundation, as well as electronics, and on into perhaps a bachelor's degree in biomed engineering or biomedical technology. And let me differentiate the two things, which are biomedical engineers and biomedical engineering technicians. Biomedical engineers are the guys and girls who, men and women, who actually come up with the ideas for and design this equipment that's in the ORs, it's sold to the hospitals. The biomedical technology technicians or biomedical engineering technicians are the people such as myself who are on the back end we, of course, maintain the equipment that the great minds came up with. And so those two avenues are available to you depending on what you want to pursue. When it comes, I'll let you go online and research the income, the salaries for both of those, and that might help you make a decision as well. I'm encouraging my 22-year-old son to look into becoming a biomedical engineer. However, this is a very lucrative business as a technician as well. My manager, who's been in this business about 22 or more years, was telling us this yesterday. There are technicians like, we know this technician who comes to work on some of this equipment here, and he works at the main hospital up in Baltimore at the shock trauma. He makes nearly $200,000 doing what I do. I'll say that again. He makes nearly $200,000 doing what it is I do here. I don't make that kind of money. I'm just saying, but he's a specialized technician who works on radiology equipment. Let me back away from this camera for just a second and see if I can pan it around just so you can see what the OR looks like. This particular OR is set up for endoscopy. So it's available right there for me to be in. But what you'll see is like anesthesia machine, the ceiling lights and so forth. Let me see if I can pan this thing around and show you a couple things anyway. Just so you have some idea what the heck I'm talking about. That machine right there is the machine. We're set on for training to be able to work on that machine right there.
I think you covered the mic.
Oops. How about that? That work?
Better.
So that anesthesia machine right there is maintained by one of the technicians like myself who was sent off for training. On this side of the room, you'll see what we refer to as the Irby. And this thing is used by surgeons to actually cauterize wounds while they are performing surgery. So instead of using a surgical knife, they will use an electric charge generated into a little pin, which actually cuts and cauterizes and stops bleeding. As soon as they make the cut, it stops the bleeding as well. So anyway, do you all have any questions of me so I can perhaps answer the questions you have and go down the path that you really want me to go down and hopefully quench your thirst? Any specific questions? No questions?
If you have a question, go ahead and unmic. There's only 8 of you. I'll read the ones that are in the chat, but go ahead and unmic. It's okay.
Any questions? Courtney?
Courtney said it's nice seeing you again, that she remembered seeing you when we did our career tours.
That's cool. Thank you, Courtney. It's good seeing you too.
Jenna, you had your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so like if a machine is broken, would they call you to fix it or would they call a IT tech to fix it? No, or a regular.
They're going to call me. So
Okay.
Here at the hospital, we have IT technicians, that IT department. That's all that they do. They work on IT equipment. I work on biomedical equipment. Now, there are often occasions, probably 50 to 75% of the time, we have to coordinate and work together because my equipment works on the Wi-Fi system, which IT maintains. And so I don't go over into their territory, but I have to step across the fence and ask for their help when I have an IT issue. So let's say if a patient is being operated on right now, there is a person sometimes in the OR during the operation who's actually on the computer and maintaining vital signs and so forth for the surgeon and for that patient. And they're working on the Wi-Fi system. So on one particular occasion, Biomed, which is myself, we got a call to come into the OR because the Wi-Fi system shut down. Well, because they're working on a patient, they're in the OR, I have to respond. But I'm not an IT person. So I don't even have access to the IT system, the IT guy. So I had to call over to IT and say, look, say to one of the guys I work with on a regular basis and say, Nate, I've got a call down the OR, patients on the table, Wi-Fi is shut down. So Nate and I both get dressed up in these what we call bunny suits, like a great big black Smurf, don't it? We dress up in these suits real quick. Now they got a patient on the table. They're working on that patient. So we go into the OR, and I'm stepping back so Nate can now do his thing, because he has access to the Wi-Fi system and control of it. I don't. Once he completes his task and everything is working again, and that doctor and the nurse and the surgeons, they're able to go back to work, then we're both done. So we come back out, and I go buy Nate some free lunch or something like that, and thank him and pat him on the back, and we go on with life. So if you have an IT background, it can bring you into biomed. If you have a background in electronics or you're mechanically inclined, it can bring you into biomed. There's 3 routes to come into biomed. You can come in with a high school diploma. I won't go over my time here. You can come in with a high school diploma, be a person who is mechanically inclined, and prove yourself. Or you can go to school and become a biomedical technologist, which of course, that's a 2-year degree that will bring you in the door. Now there are 4-year degrees. I've seen a few of them online, and the unfortunate thing about being on the shore is we don't have any schools close by which have programs for biomedical technology or technicians. The closest one is Del Tech over in Delaware, and the other one is Anne Arundel County. The one school in Maryland that I know of, that's a 2-year school that offers a biomedical technician degree at a 2-year school, specifically is Howard Community College. So all 3 of these schools are extremely far away. And the closest one to us, Chesapeake College. Unfortunately, I used to teach at Chesapeake College. The other thing is, it's difficult because of that I just mentioned about the difficulty in finding training. It's difficult for us to find people young people who want to come into the profession. And so I've been saying to my manager, I've been asking the question, asking for permission to bring students, a student at a time, into our office to do internship, to hang out with us and see if it's something you enjoy doing. Again, I have a 22-year-old who's in college. When he was 18, I brought him into the shop one day, and he hung out with me and throughout the workday. And he knows what I do. I talk about it at home. He's been on the job with me before, but he actually got to walk around and see what I do. And actually got a chance to see me working on machines and so forth. And so I said, so Graham, at the end of the day, I said, so Graham, did you learn anything? Did you get any ideas? He said, yeah, Dad, I realized something. He said, I respect what you do. I like what you do. He said, but I don't want to be a biomed technician. I want to be a biomedical engineer. Didn't hurt my feelings at all, because he'll be able to afford to buy me a house one day. So I am most enthused about him becoming a biomedical engineer, if that's what he wants to do. So he talks about it, he toys around with different things that will lead him in that direction. And he's got Dad and all the people I work with. The other thing is we work as a team. We're a small department in biomed. So there are 6 of us total. And we oversee 3 hospitals, 2 surgery centers, and a host of other off-sites, compiling about 24 different sites for 4 technicians at my location and my manager, and 1 technician up in Chestertown. So we oversee a lot. The other benefit of being at this particular location is we get to work on all of the equipment, thousands of pieces of equipment. I might see a piece of equipment today for the very first time. I've never seen it before, I've never touched it before, and now it's broken. So my job is to figure out what's wrong with it. I've never seen it before. So I have to have 2 things working for me: critical thinking and problem solving skills. Those are the most important skills you can have when you step out of high school. And of course, all of that is built into your English, your math, your history, so forth and so on. All the courses in school lends to building those skills for you. So that when you see something for the first time, you say it's broke. Well, you ask the person who broke it or who was using it when it broke, what were you doing? What happened when it stopped working? And they'll tell you. You say, okay, I got an idea. If it's something I've seen before, I can tell sometimes I know what's wrong with it already. I can fix it right there on the spot, or I can take it away to my shop and work on it. Okay, so we're down to like 2 more minutes. And before somebody kicks me off TV, do you all have any questions from anybody?
there's two questions on the table right now. One, some of the challenges you face, and the other one was, where did you go for training and how long did it take you?
Okay. I started going to school when Miss Laurie was a little girl. So I've been in school for that many years, a lot of years.
I
So
know.
I'm joking. No, but I've been in school for a lot of years. So I have a master's degree and a few other degrees below that. None of them are in biomedical engineering or biomedical technology. But the problem-solving skills I have, I was able to acquire those. Now, I'm a former cop, a former state trooper. So again, I had to use problem-solving skills in that capacity also. So I've been honing that ability over the years. I always joke with people and tell them when they ask me how I got into this profession, I say, well, I used to take my toys apart when I was a little kid, put them back together and see if they work. And that is no joke. I say it jokingly, but that is the honest to God truth. I really used to take my toys apart, put them back together. And my dad knew something was going on with him when I was a kid. I thought I was going to grow up and become an engineer. I came up and became a cop. Who could figure? But now that after 30 years of law enforcement, I find myself in engineering, where I thought I was going to go in the first place. So here I am. So again, I like school, I like learning, and that's the other thing about this profession. You have to like learning because, like I said, I can't believe my phone is ringing right. That's probably Mr. Lemieux calling me saying, okay, Terry, your time is over. Excuse me, 1 second.
While he's answering that, there is a very important takeaway that he said, that he started in one field and ended up in another. And that's a reoccurring theme that I hear when I talk to people that are in the workforce.
Is this concerning a biomedical issue?
Where they started. And it's okay to change your mind along your.
I'm going to have to call you back. I'm standing in the OR talking to a group of people about biomedical engineering, so I have to call you back.
So
okay.
It's good to know that you can change your mind along your career path and try new things. So
I intentionally took that call because we are issued cell phones, which we get calls all the time. And I'm one of the on-call, there's two of us who are on-call techs. So 2 weeks out of the month, I'm on call. So if something breaks down at the hospital, I get the call. Sometimes it's in the middle of the night. Sometimes the whole system has gone down in ICU or in telemetry. I have to respond to it. Sometimes I can work it out from home, over the phone. Sometimes I literally have to get up out of the bed and come into the hospital. And so that's the nature of what we do. And of course, it is far more ranging than that, but our time is limited. If you ever have any questions, these nice ladies know how to get in contact with me. Feel free to drop me an email. They have my emails as well. If you email me, just put in there that you're at this particular session. So I'll, of course, see it and respond to it as quickly as possible. And I'll try to answer whatever questions you have. Any last questions before I let you all go? I wish you all well. If you ever need anything that I can help you with, feel free to contact me.
Thank you, Terry.
They all said thank you, and I appreciate the time you spent with us today.
Thank you. You all have a great day. And stay safe.
You as well.
Thanks.
Janine, would you like to introduce your next guest? I see she joined you today.
Yes, she did. So this is Miss Kathy Savak. She is the manager of professional nursing practice, and she is my boss. So she's going to talk to you guys about what she does, which is like a hodgepodge of everything. Very organized and good with numbers too. All right, so I'm just going to take this down. Is that good like that?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. As Janine said, my name's Kathy. I've been a nurse for almost 40 years. And nursing is my second career. Continuing along that theme, I was a high school teacher first and taught biology for high school and had always wanted to be a nurse. My parents would cringe at the fact that I would bring home injured caterpillars or injured cats or injured dogs and bring them into the house. And of course, all they could think of was, oh my God, these rabid animals. All I could think of was I just wanted to care for these animals. So after I was teaching for a couple of years, I went back to school, got my nursing degree, and I haven't looked back since. One of the things that the way that I learn very well, and I hope that you do too, is by listening to stories about different things. So what I'm going to do today is what I'll call stories from the bedside. And I'm going to give you an idea of how my career developed over the past 40 years. So when I first graduated from nursing school, I went to work at Johns Hopkins Hospital, and I worked in the cardiac transplant unit. And that was the best experience I could have possibly imagined. I want you to stop and think for a minute about not having your heart work to its best capacity, and that you have to stop and you have to think about every step you take, every breath you take, and wondering if today is going to be your last day. And knowing that you're waiting for someone else to die in order that you can receive a heart so that you can continue your life. And that was how I spent the first year of my career, was working with those patients and developing really deep relationships with them, because at that time, the transplant patients would actually stay in the hospital until they got their transplant. So these were patients that I saw on a daily basis. And you could always tell when a transplant was coming because there was a different buzz on the unit. You could hear that excitement on the unit that someone was going to be getting the transplant that they had been waiting so long for. And all of the people on the unit could hear that. And you waited for the helicopter to land. You could hear the helicopter landing. And you knew as soon as the helicopter landed that you were going to be making sure that your patient was ready to go to the operating room so that the transplant could be performed. And following that, those operations usually lasted anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. So you would leave your shift not knowing how things were going for that patient in the operating room. It wouldn't be until you got back to work the next time to find out how that patient was doing. So the most successful and rewarding part of that type of job was to be able to take those patients to the front door after they successfully transitioned with their new heart and help them to go home. So can you imagine how that must feel and how rewarding that must be? So then after that, I went into the field that I always knew I wanted to do, and that was mother-baby nursing. But I didn't want to just do mother-baby nursing. I wanted to take care of the sick moms while they were still pregnant. And I think one of the most satisfying things about that, again, was you're developing a long-term relationship with these patients. They have not delivered yet. There's a mom who you can see and who you can take care of. And then there is a baby that you're also caring for that you can't see and that you can't have really true knowledge of how well that patient is doing, how that baby is doing. So I thought that that was a wonderful challenge, and it really enjoyed working in high-risk obstetrics. One of the patients that I remember the most, if you can think, I'm sure that you all know that moms are usually pregnant for 9 months, approximately 9 months. It's actually 40 weeks. And they are covered, the babies are covered in the mom's uterus by a sac called the amniotic sac. And that sac is filled with fluid. And that fluid and that sac is responsible for allowing that baby to practice breathing. It breathes in the amniotic fluid. It's like a fish while it's inside its mom. And it also prevents infections from getting to the baby. So when an 18-week patient came into the hospital whose amniotic sac had broken and she was leaking amniotic fluid, our job was to keep her pregnant for as long as we possibly could so that this baby could develop the way that it was supposed to. The baby had all of its organs, was proportionate for an 18-week baby, but it still needed to develop. It still needed to mature, and it needed to have its own natural incubator inside the mom to do that the best way that we could do. So for the next, let's see, she came in at 18 weeks and we kept her pregnant until 34 weeks gestation. We kept her in bed and she was almost standing on her head in bed. So she was laying with her head down. And if you've ever been sick for a long period of time and you've just laid in bed, do you know how your muscles feel when you get up for the first time and how weak you feel? Can you imagine doing that for that length of time for from 18 weeks to 34 weeks gestation? She was laying in bed. So we provided care for her. We bathed her. We made sure that she wasn't going to get an infection. So we gave her antibiotics. They no longer do that today, but back then when I was practicing, they were doing that. We made sure that her muscles did not just shrivel up. We gave her daily exercises and helped her do her exercises while she was in bed. And that way we were able to keep her pregnant. We kept her without any type of lung injury to herself, like pneumonia. We kept her well for that full length of time. And so at 34 weeks, she delivered a little boy. Now, little boy babies don't do as well as little girl babies. Little girls are fighters, and they really do much better if they're born prematurely. But this little boy baby had been stressed so much from everything that we were doing that he was able to successfully transition. He spent some time in the NICU, which was expected, but he really did well. And we were able to put the mom into rehabilitation. And so approximately 10 days after her delivery, we were able to wheel her and the baby out the front door and to home. And I have kept friends with that person since she delivered back in 1987. So it was something that developed over a long period of time. When I first started obstetrics nursing, if a baby was born before 32 weeks gestation, 32 weeks of development, it was very odd for that baby to survive. Science has changed so much over the past 40 years that we are now saving babies who are born at 26 and 27 weeks gestation with no long-term effects on their health. So you can see how things change. So that was my obstetrics part of my career. And then I told you I was a teacher before I became a nurse. And I decided to marry the two jobs and started teaching nursing. And that's what I've been doing ever since, probably for the past 10 years, serving as a clinical specialist. If you remember Claudia from Monday, Claudia is a clinical specialist, and I am a clinical specialist. That's my training. And I spent the majority of my time assisting staff to be the best that they could be. And that's the other nice thing about being a nurse, is that you can take on all these jobs. Nursing is never a boring proposition. You can always choose what you want to do and choose different things to do. So in my current role, I am responsible for the development of staff as well. And part of that is through research. And I want you to realize that nursing is a science, and it develops because of scientific inquiry. Have you all heard of Florence Nightingale? Does that name sound familiar?
Thumbs up.
Florence Nightingale would have been 200 years old this year, back in May, on May 12th. It was her 200th birthday. And she is the founder of modern nursing. It is because of Florence's influence on scientific inquiry that nursing is where it is today. So nursing can really be a lot of fun. It can cause you to really look at problems. If any of you are interested in taking care of children, there is a hospital in Philadelphia specifically for the care of children. And there was one nurse researcher there who looked at children who had to go in for MRIs. Do you know what an MRI is? Where you're put into that long tube and it looks like a tunnel and you're laying in that long tube for probably about 30 minutes for your test. And they were finding, of course, that children were very scared of this long tube. So this nurse researcher thought, well, how can I make this better for these children? How can it be a little less painful for them to have to go through this procedure? And so she developed what she called the fantasy room MRI. And she was able to create an environment that would look like a spaceship. And so if a child wanted to be on a spaceship, they would go into this MRI that had been decorated like a spaceship, and they would go through and they would do different things in the spaceship during the time that the child was having the MRI. Or if the child wanted to be a princess, they would develop another type of decoration where the MRI would be covered in items that looked like castles and princes and princesses. So again, it was making an alternative environment for the child. So nurse researchers have a big impact on the outcomes of patients and how patients are experiencing their environment and how they are able to enjoy the environment if at all possible. Nurses are responsible for caring for others. If you asked me to summarize nursing in one word, it would be that word, caring. So what kinds of questions do you have for me?
Does anybody have any questions? I think you did an excellent job at explaining what nursing is.
It's a
And
hodgepodge.
But I also like that you explained how you can have one career and change careers. I think that's been a common theme throughout most careers. A lot of people are saying thank you. And I do believe if they have questions, they can email me and I'll send them off to you and we can get them answered.
Absolutely.
We're a little short on time and I would like to get to our next guest. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I see Tyler is with us. Thank you so much. So Tyler grew up in Preston. He is the son of Norm Washburn, who is our IT guru that you guys saw yesterday and talked to him. He went to Colonel Richardson and he went to law school, University of Georgia. Graduated assistant district attorney in Georgia for 2 years, and then had some stuff with law enforcement, SWAT teams, U.S. Marshals, all kinds of good stuff. And now are you in Germany or England?
England right now.
Okay, England. So I'm going to let you take it over, and thank you so much for being able to join us.
Absolutely. So first, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I think it's a pretty great opportunity for the kids to get to hear about some professions they might not otherwise get exposed to. And I know when I was going through school, we did not have a great career day program or get exposed to a lot of these sorts of things. So I think it's great for the kids get to see a lot of this, especially the healthcare professions right now, given COVID and everything that's going on. I think there's never been a time more important than right now where healthcare workers are going above and beyond. And I think that speaks volumes to y'all's character and the incredible importance that you play for the community. So thank you all for what you guys do. So yes, I'm in England. I apologize. Normally I have a much more formal top on, but it is 93 degrees here and the Europeans don't believe in air conditioning. So this is what you're going to get. Otherwise I'll be sweating all over the place. So yes, thank you for the introduction. I am normally stationed in Germany, but I am deployed currently to England for about the next 2 weeks, and then I go back to Germany for another year. I'm going to give you guys a presentation, sort of letting you know what it is that I do, some of the cool missions that are going on throughout Europe that your United States Air Force is conducting, and just try to give you guys sort of an overarching view of some of the careers that you can have in the military. So obviously very different than what you guys have gotten so far. You guys have gotten a lot of healthcare stuff. Those guys are way cooler than what we were doing, but I cheated a little bit. I put some very cool airplanes and stuff in here to try to build me up. So hopefully, it's still interesting. And bear with me a minute, I'm still trying to learn how to use Zoom. We've been using Microsoft Teams in the Air Force, so it's all still new to me. Cool. All right. Thumbs up if everybody can see my slides. Is that working? Great. So this is a pretty standard slide format for what you're going to see if you were in a real briefing in the United States Air Force. We don't do anything snazzy or anything exciting. There's no transitions. There's no good videos, but I'll do my best to keep it entertaining all the same. So yes, we're going to be talking about Air Force JAG largely, but I'm happy to entertain questions about just about any field within the Air Force, because as part of my job, I interact with just about every branch every day. And I've been deployed here with about 140 airmen that do just about everything. And I have picked their brains nonstop trying to learn what it is they do, because many of them have an even cooler job than I have. So, all right, so this is some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. My background in education and my resume have largely been talked about, but I'll very shortly go back and recover that. And then I'll focus largely on just what a JAG is, and then what the Air Force is doing, and try to keep you guys a little entertained, drop some cool stuff. So there's a wonderful picture of handsome me in my service blues. I got to get that photo updated. I do have some more ribbons, participation ribbons to throw on there. But yeah, so I was raised in Preston, attended Colonel Middle. I was born and raised all 17 years until I left for college. So very familiar with the Eastern Shore education. SEC football is about as good as it gets, so you get two great photos of South Carolina Gamecock football, and then our adorable mascot from the University of Georgia, Uga, who probably has the best seat for any football game because it's an air-conditioned doghouse, and it's normally 99 and 100% humidity in Georgia for football season. So I got my Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. That was just pretty much the degree that I wanted. I was really interested in politics, and then ultimately decided I wanted to branch out and do something a little bit more other than be a politician. So I went and got my Juris Doctorate, or a law degree, from the University of Georgia. After that, I took the bar exam in the state of Georgia because I was living there and it seemed convenient at the time, and I passed it. And then I took over as an assistant district attorney in Newton County, just outside of Atlanta. There you can see the picture of the old courthouse in Newton County, one of the most beautiful buildings, I think, in antebellum Georgia. It's gorgeous. It was a great pleasure to practice there. And while there, I did a lot of things. I covered pretty much everything, felony, whether it be murder, armed robbery, burglary, drug crimes, all the way down to misdemeanor stuff like DUIs and assault and batteries. So I've seen just about everything. I've gotten to go on raids with SWAT teams as we raided drug houses. So it was a pretty cool opening and very beginning to a career, getting to see some very incredible things that our law enforcement go out and do every day to keep us all safe. And then in 2018, I decided to make a change for myself. I wanted to explore the world a little bit more and impact the world a little bit better. And so I signed up for the Air Force and I became an assistant staff judge advocate, which is really just a fancy term for the same exact job I had in Newton County, except we have a slightly broader scope in terms of things we do. And then, like you guys heard, so Spangdahlem Air Base in Germany is my regular base. That's where I've been for 2 years. I'll be there for another year after this. And RAF Fairford is a base that I'm at right now. It's weird that I'm deployed to England. I know most people hear deployment, you probably think Afghanistan or Iraq, and that's what I thought too. And when they called me and told me I was going to England, I thought they were joking and playing a horrible prank on me. But no, we actually do have deployments to England and other places. This base has been, up until we got here, non-operational for about 10 years, and there was nothing here. We've built a lot, and we've got a lot going on here to enable us to continue the mission that we have here, which is very unique to Europe. And I'll talk a little bit about that further in the presentation to kind of explain why we would even deploy to England other than to just explore and eat good food. So what is a JAG? So a JAG is just an attorney for the armed forces, and every single branch has some form of JAG. They've basically decided that JAGs and lawyers are so important to the military that the military cannot itself function without lawyers telling them what to do and making sure that they're able to follow the rules. So as you can see, Army, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, Navy, and yes, even the Space Force has a few JAGs. I have some friends that I went to school with who were Air Force in the morning, and then by afternoon, they were suddenly in the Space Force. They were very surprised. Our uniforms are still cooler. They have some blue writing for their name tapes. Ours is like crisp spice brown. I think ours look better. They stole their logo from Star Trek, but that's okay. They get to go to space, and we'll just keep the air. I'm fine with that. You can breathe air, you can't breathe space. But and then there's the Air Force JAG Corps sort of motto is that we are powerful force enablers, and that we do that by delivering professional, candid, independent counsel and full spectrum legal capabilities to command and the warfighter, which sounds really, really cool and makes my job sound amazing, but it doesn't make a lot of sense when you have no idea what it's talking about. From an insider's perspective, it sounds like that's what we do and it makes it sound great. But I'm going to try to break it down a little bit and explain a little bit more detail exactly what that means so that you guys can kind of understand. So everyone thinks I do this. This is not Top Gun. Top Gun was the Navy. Our planes are better, faster, more maneuverable. Also, I'm better looking than Tom Cruise now. Maybe then he was better looking, but he's aged and it hasn't gone well for him. But so that's what everyone kind of thinks of when they hear the Air Force. But there is so much more that goes on in the Air Force generally to enable people like Tom Cruise to do the things that they do, to fly those planes at the speeds that they fly and do all the cool maneuvers and stuff that you see in the movies. Honestly, this is a personal belief I have, but I believe the pilots are some of the least important people in the Air Force, because I think I could fly a plane, but putting the planes back together, building the engines and doing all that stuff, that is a heck of a lot harder. And more often than not, the pilots don't even know how to put their planes back together. So I think they're useless. But so what we really do is basically this. This is a picture of me on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Saturday and Sunday, probably I'm much happier, but we do a lot of reading and we do a lot of research, and we're constantly learning because the rules are always changing and there's always new information to be learned and ways that we can always improve ourselves in the processes that we're engaged in. There are many times that I strike this exact pose when a commander calls me and wants to do something, and you have to tell them that's illegal, can't do that. And then they say they're going to do it anyway. So, and then you have to talk them out of it. So largely I spend a lot of my time, I don't want to say babysitting, but it is to some extent just holding hands and making sure that people are following the appropriate rules. So what do I actually do? I touch just about every area of law that you can imagine. And that's what makes the JAG Corps so special, is that it enables us as attorneys to explore so many different areas of law. Normally, if you're, a prosecutor in Georgia like I was before, I only ever really engaged with criminal law. If you go and work for a firm as a civil firm, you're only going to engage in certain areas and aspects of that law. So you're going to specialize and become very proficient in one area of law, but you're going to miss out on practicing so many other incredible areas and learning so much more about what is the law and what there is to do. And that's my biggest spiel for why to join the JAG Corps, because the breadth of experience, and every day is different. No day do I walk in and I know what's going to happen that day. I get all kinds of crazy things. I'll talk about some of those as we go through here. So civil law, when I started out, I was in charge of civil law for my office, which meant we drafted wills. We did all kinds of legal reviews for things like fundraisers that wanted to go on base. If local Germans wanted to come onto base to do things, there's certain rules that apply. We had to do that. And then I offered free legal assistance to any military member. So if a military member is going through a divorce, if they have issues with debt collection, if they have issues with a landlord, or any number of other issues. I helped with adoptions. I've helped people get guardianships of their brothers and sisters who were in not less than fortunate circumstances. And that is really an incredible thing to be able to do, is to give back to the airmen around me who are maybe less fortunate or who are going through a bad time, and being able to walk them from the initiation of that bad time and trying to turn it into a positive experience for them and come out with the best outcome for them. And I think that's probably one of the most important things that I do on a daily basis is helping them, because at the end of the day, they're the ones putting engines on planes and making the planes fly and doing all the other things that the Air Force needs to do to put a couple planes in the air. And then obviously criminal law, I do still engage in criminal law. Instead of trials, we have what are called court martials. We also have discharge boards, and discharge boards are when a military member is being kicked out of the military. They have an opportunity to have an administrative hearing where lawyers are present and a judge, and they basically make a hiring or firing decision as to whether to retain that member or not. And court martials, we have a special code of military justice in the military that is only applicable to military members. So if any of our members go forth and they violate that code, we are in charge of enforcing the law and making sure that that member is appropriately punished to ensure continued good order and discipline in the military. When I return to Spangdahlem in Germany, I will be taking over the chief of litigation position, and that position is largely centered on making sure that cases go to trial and that those cases in trial go smoothly. I've tried probably 22 cases so far in my career. I've gotten a fair amount of experience to be where I am so far. I really like trying cases. I think probably next I'm going to be a defense attorney for the Air Force, which is another cool service that the Air Force offers. And that you can do as a JAG. There's many different career paths for JAGs that go beyond just doing the things that I'm talking about. But and then next, international law. So obviously, this is something that more applies to JAGs who are stationed overseas. But every day we are interacting with international law, and I've negotiated international treaties with the RAF since I've been here, and the United Kingdom, that enabled us to conduct what is the world's largest air show, which helps foster strong relations with our host nation, the local British community. They are very incredibly supportive of us. When we were locked down to base, they brought us food and drinks, and they went shopping for us, and would drop it off at the front gate. So we want to thank them for all the wonderful things they do for us by allowing us to be guests in their country. And we do that by putting on one heck of an air show and letting them come for free and enjoying just the wonderful things that the world has to offer in terms of air power. And then the most important thing that we do is enforcing host nation law. So like I said, with the Uniform Code of Military Justice, we have those rules. Every country has their own independent rules that are often different than ours, and we are bound to follow those rules. So when a military member runs afoul of another country's rules, I'm the one that gets to enforce it and make sure that we continue to foster the good relationships with our host nation by ensuring that when their rules are broken, they know that we will take care of and do the appropriate thing and punishing our members and trying to make sure that that incident does not repeat itself. And then operations law. What is that? Sounds kind of interesting, and it really is. So operations law is probably one of the coolest jobs you can get as a JAG. It's generally done on deployment, and when you are deployed to like Iraq, Afghanistan, every single time that a drone decides to strike a terrorist target or we send the planes up to go bomb something, we have to make sure that we're following both the laws of war, the laws of the countries in which we're operating, and then our own rules and regulations to make sure that we're not running afoul or endangering civilians unnecessarily. And so we are sort of the check and balance to the guys that want to put warheads on foreheads, and us who are trying to make sure that we use our foreheads and we think about it and we're doing things the right way before we do it. And so my deputy at Spang Dahlem was involved in the green lighting of the strike that killed the Iranian general not that long ago. There was a lot that went into that. There's a lot of very classified information that was involved in that strike. But that's just sort of an example of some of the cool things that you do when you're in a deployed environment. Rules of engagement. Every unit that deploys, they are subject to different rules of engagement. So if you're in Afghanistan, the rules for engaging enemies is different than the rules for engaging enemies in Iraq, or engaging if you're stationed somewhere further out like the UAE. And that part of the legal advisor's job is to ensure that we're following the rules of engagement, and when they're broken, that we're somehow administering some sort of discipline or punishment, or at least documenting the violation so that we can follow back and figure out where things went wrong, because we want to constantly be improving our processes. And if there are mistakes made, we want to be fixing those mistakes. And then sort of an interesting area that you might not necessarily think of when you're thinking military is environmental law. So I have very seldom engaged with environmental law, and I got a firsthand sort of experience with it when about 9 months ago at Spang Dahlem, we had an F-16 fall out of the sky, and it crashed and did a ton of damage. Thankfully, not to any property or any actual homes or anything in Germany. The pilot was okay, and everyone in Germany was unharmed, but it did a large amount of environmental damage because, as you can imagine, when an aircraft that size comes down at the speeds that they travel, it basically disintegrated and destroyed an entire huge, little woods area that was used for timber in the German economy by a local German farmer. And so part of the environmental law is ensuring that the fuel that we use did not leak out and contaminate the soil. We wanted to make sure that we did our best to replace the trees that we destroyed and to make the farmer whole, because we did a tremendous amount. I think it was probably a couple $100,000 worth of damage to their timber. And we want to make sure that that farmer gets taken care of, and that area, while it was subject to a pretty bad disaster, is rehabilitated and then able to continue to grow the timber that man relies on for his living. And every piece of that F-16 was classified material. So for 3 weeks, all the airmen from our base were in a field in Germany picking pieces about that size of F-16 out of trees, out of dirt, out of just about everywhere you could possibly imagine. So it was a heck of an operation, and they did an incredible job responding to it. The Germans and the German government were extremely helpful, extremely good hosts, and we're very grateful and lucky to have them. And then another area to move on is contract law. Every time the military buys something, we have to contract for it. And the military buys pretty expensive toys. Our most recent toy is the F-35 Lightning, which is an incredible fighter aircraft that turns at speeds and angles that don't seem humanly possible, but they do it. And if you ever get the chance to see two of them dogfight, it will blow your mind, because it's the most incredible thing you've ever seen. But they are $77.9 million per plane. And we have squadrons of them, 12 to 15 at any given time. So if you can imagine that amount of money getting spent, that's what we're contracting for, and that's what we're buying from various vendors. And it's not just planes, it's other materials and food and all kinds of interesting things. But that's part of what I do, is I review the contracts and I make sure that we're following federal acquisition guidelines and that we're buying the right planes with the right color of money and things like that. So it sounds like it can sound boring, and sometimes it is boring, but contracting law can also be really cool when you get to realize what it is that we're buying. You're like, cool, pretty expensive aircraft, great. Or bombs. Bombs are even more expensive. So that's just some of the areas of law that we touch, but we touch so many more areas, and we do so much more that you really can do just about anything you want if you're in the JAG Corps. But mission's important, right? So why do we do what we do? Why are we doing, this sort of military stuff? This is a U2. This is here at RAF Fairford. RAF Fairford is one of the only locations we have that can support the U2 aircraft because of its unique landing ability. And if you want to look that up, get on YouTube, look up a U2 landing. It's pretty cool. It doesn't seem like something that should be able to land. The pilot can't see the ground, so you have to get out behind it and a chase car, and you have to call in distances from the ground to let the pilot know how hard and how fast they're coming up to the ground. But what this plane does is it takes incredibly detailed photographs of various locations around the world. It's basically a spy plane. So what we do here is we spy on our enemies, we spy on our friends, and we make sure that everybody is abiding, whether it be nuclear treaties, whether it be our friends in the Great White North, Russia, making sure that they know that we know what they're doing. That's just some of the missions that we do. I can't get into too many specifics because it is a classified aircraft, and a lot of the missions that we do here are top secret, and in fact all the photographs we take are top secret. But it's an incredible machine, the mission's great, and so that's why we do what we do, to make sure that we can put that up there, and that plane can take the photographs that it needs to ensure that both our nation and all the nations that we support as part of our NATO mission are protected from whatever threats may arise. And then this is, yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
So much amazing information. I'm wondering if you can come back and talk to us again sometime. We
Sure.
seem to have gone over quite a bit from our allotted time today.
Yeah, no worries.
I have your contact information. Can we connect and you do a whole nother spiel for me? I have a lot of kids at school that would love to talk to you.
Sure, absolutely, my pleasure.
Okay, I will touch base with you another, I'm actually gonna follow up right after this session and see when we can meet again.
Sure, sounds great. Thank you.
For all of the people that have joined us today, I am going to put a survey. I would like to thank you all for joining us, first of all. I'm going to put a survey into the chat if you would be willing to take it for me. It is a QR code, and I'm also going to put a link. If you can do either one of them for me would be great. It would mean a lot for me if you could finish that before you go today. And I want to thank you all for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's see, there's the code. Let's see if I can put the QR code in there as well. I don't know if the QR code went as well for you. I think the link went better. So go ahead and do the link. There's a link. I will also follow it up with an email with the link and QR code as well. On behalf of Maryland Business Roundtable for Education, thank you all for joining us. And I hope you learned a great deal. Stay safe out there. I'm Laurie Bell for Maryland Business Roundtable for Education. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on from so far away.
I know, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You have so much amazing information. I would love, I have a lot of kids at school that are interested in military. So I would love to just tap into all of that and go straight for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was so enthralled with everything you were saying.
Yeah, and sorry for going over. I was trying to time it out. I wasn't sure exactly how long we'd have. So, but no, absolutely my pleasure.
Oh, no, that was awesome. Your presentation was awesome.
It really is.
And I was thinking about some of them that I've gone to at the school and asked them what they want to be. And so many of them say military. So this would be right in line.
And what I love most, and you know, like I'm in Cambridge, South Dorchester, and I don't know if you know Morgan Cox. She's a graduate. I think she graduated Caroline High School. North Caroline, but I know she's from Caroline County, and she actually works in North Caroline and Colonel Richardson High School. She does the same job I do there. And I think it's great that you're from Colonel Richardson High School. So there's, you know, like knowing somebody that's coming from the same high school that the kids are in now and
Yeah.
see what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And the other question real quick, just for legal purposes.
I'm
since
sorry.
it's okay. We did record this, so is that okay if it does, what you showed is recorded and put on the link?
Yep.
Okay.
No, everything on there was on class.